Marshal Diptendu Choudhury, retired as Commandant, National Defence College, and Lieutenant General Satish Dua, retired as Chief of Integrated Defence Staff 2018 and author, will be in conversation discussing India's strategic autonomy, military and economic dimensions post-Operation Sindoor.
Do you have any preference? You can sit anywhere. Yeah, technically. So we'll sit as per our photographs, you know, on the screen. Like my friend Diptendu just said, hello Eric. So like he just said, we both are from JNU. Like Anand started off, Dr. Anand Ranganathan started off by saying that we both are from JNU, but I will sit on the left. So does it surprise you to know that we both are from JNU? Yes. All right. So I think that deserves an explanation. Before that, I must tell you that a few years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, when this agitation was going on in JNU, you know, there was a lot of Tukde gang, all that things were happening and several arrests were made. So I had done some I do a motorcycle rides and mountains and somewhere I keep doing that. And one of that pictures which I posted in social media went viral, and Anand made it viral. He says, why look at Kanhaiya and this? So this General Dua should be made the poster boy for JNU because we are from JNU. Now how? We both are from National Defence Academy, Khadakwasla, and we get a BA, BSc degree. We both are BA, incidentally. I learned that you were. So degree is from JNU. While we are at the National Defence Academy, we have never visited JNU, but we are JNU graduates. So that's how we are. Right. And I think, I don't know, is it because of our being JNU, but I think it's, before I will, in the end, say good words about organizers, but I have a complaint. Out of the 3 evenings, on 2 evenings, I have been put between you and your dinner. So the first evening also, I was the last one to talk. All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Just like you, the smartness of you to turn into a compliment. Thank you. Right. So just 60 seconds before I begin, allow me one aside. You know, in mid-18th century, Dr. Johnson of Johnson & Johnson Dictionary's fame, that was the first comprehensive English dictionary that came out. Dr. Johnson was a great literary figure, but he was a man of very poor hygiene. You know, in England, those days, there were people who would just change a collar, not bathe. There were different ways of their cleanliness and all. So, you know, he used to smell. But because of his literary stature, he was member of, the people tolerated him, and he was member of the social cocktail circuits and all that. In one of such gatherings, one lady of noble descent could not sort of tolerate him, and she could not tolerate this part, and she told him very bluntly, Dr. Johnson, you smell. That was very undiplomatic. But Dr. Johnson, without batting an eyelid, he said, Madam, you smell. I stink. So you see, again, he was correcting her English. Now, words and terminologies are very important. So we will also use some words and terminologies today. Strategic autonomy, self-reliance or Atmanirbharta, new world order. But we must be very correct about them when we talk to that. And that's the point I wish to make. And we will throw open what I propose to do, if it's okay with you, Diptendu, is that we will give our opening remarks for 5, 7, 8 minutes, whatever. We'll keep them brief on this topic of India's strategic autonomy. And we've taken 2 inflection points. It is post-Operation Sindoor and Trump's tariffs. When you said economics, so our economy today is sort of beset by the Trump tariffs and things like that. We've had enough discussions on that. And when we talk about other questions that we have designed, instead of waiting for the Q&A in the end, I'm going to, whenever there is a question, I will, before we will discuss it, I will open it, and then I'll take one response from the audience. But I'm going to be very strict, like Glory. I will not allow you to exceed a certain point. I will not, you will not make points. Only one response, and then we will talk. So I will just change the format, if that's okay with you all. Right. We'll have more participation. Right. Now, I just need to take out my phone to refer to one or two bullet points. You know, I just want to put out a few statistics as my opening remarks. India has landed Chandrayaan on the moon at a fraction of cost that other Western countries do. I mean, we heard the mesmerizing talk by Shooks yesterday, and so we learned of his journey, which is fantastic. But what we did at Chandrayaan, I'm talking of the cost factor, it was very less. India today is the world leader in digital payments. I'm sure you would have know, and if someone has missed this news, let me inform you that we have exceeded, as far as digital payments are concerned, we have crossed 20 billion transactions per month. So that 20 billion transactions per month, we have crossed Visa and MasterCard. So that's the single largest transaction platform today, is this digital transactions in India. We gave COVID vaccines to 150 countries, free, including Pakistan, by the way. Our economy doubled, we heard so often. Our economy doubled in 10 years from 2.1 trillion to 4.2 trillion, and we are the fourth largest economy, soon poised to be third. Our GST, yesterday Anand also brought out, GST is 20 lakh crore of collections. India is the leader of Global South, in half in lighter vein, but half is serious. Our Bollywood yoga and samosas are quite popular in the world. Now, you see how our leadership is today. You know, a country can have resources, instruments of power, comprehensive power, but if the leadership is not bold, then it may not amount to much. So our leadership is bold. You know, you see Prime Minister Modi in the last decade or so, he used to go and talk to the Indian diaspora earlier. But today his foreign meetings, foreign visits are driven by trade pacts. Let's not talk about Trump for the moment. I mean, there are so many trade pacts that he has done. Are driven by defense supply chains and digital transactions. You know, these kind of things that Prime Minister Modi is doing. Prime Minister Modi is perhaps the only world leader who can talk to Russia and Ukraine at the same time, who can talk to Israel and Iran at the same time. Anita is here, right? So that's another great distinction that we have. So this is something that we need to keep in mind. And 21 countries have bestowed the highest honor of their country on Prime Minister Modi. This is the highest in the world. No world leaders got that. And I'm going to just cut it short before I hand over to Diptendu to say 2 points. One, in 1971 war, it took us 14 days. It took us only 14 days, actually, to bring Pakistan to its knees and to the surrender table. But in Operation Sindoor, and I will ask my friend Diptendu to talk more about it. In Operation Sindoor, it took us less than 4 days. In fact, he said less than 90 hours, I remember you said, and just 88 hours precise. We got them to the, not to surrender table this time. They actually rang up and said, please stop. It was a phone call to the DGMO. And that's where the ceasefire happened. So, with that, I think that is going to be a great inflection point, because world leaders, analysts do agree that no country, there is no parallel of a country which has managed to impose its will on another country so completely in less than 4 days. And Trump's tariff, we'll talk more about it with you all, because we've been talking about it over the last 2 days in different sessions. I will only leave one thought with you, is that I think this just might be our 1991 moment. we are forced to diversify, we'll be forced to find alternate markets, we'll be forced to find different supply chains, we'll be forced to manufacture something and ourselves. Trump, like yesterday somebody brought out, Trump might help us stopping the brain drain by giving $100,000 visa, so people might not go. And so that it is also our turning moment in 1991, because we might have to alter our policies. So that there might be an opportunity in this challenge. And I suppose these two are good inflection points to talk about in our quest to sort of establish how strong is India really becoming. You know, strategic autonomy is towing its own line in national interest, not listening to US, not listening to other countries, but only national interest prevail. On that note, over to you, Diptendu.
Thank you very much, sir. I never knew really that a Nobel Prize can become a cause of strategic discontent the world over. And but seriously, when we talked about the strategic autonomy, it's I think if we just take a quick look back in our history, when we post-independence, when we became we chose on the path of non-alignment, and it was a great strategy for its time. I mean, it helped us to keep us out of the Cold War choices, you know, of taking sides. Brilliant for its time, but that was also the time where our ability to engage with the number of nations outside was very limited. And now we fast forward to strategic autonomy, and this time in place, I think it's clearly the adopted strategic path this country has chosen. You know, in this interregnum of from a bipolar world to that multipolar moment towards a larger a multipolar world. So I think it's also a lot of factors. Some of us already been brought out, you know, economic growth, our ability, our stature internationally. But we know with great power, not only you get great responsibility comes with it, but the problem is that moment you choose and start moving on the step of great power, you get a lot of people taking sides, and there are a lot of, let's say, the lower south, the G20 countries and other nations today who are very strongly with India. But there is also a fact that you you bring in a sense of unease amongst the people who were already the power holders. And you, inadvertently, you're also seen with a little bit of concern. And that is, I think, natural. So I think strategic autonomy in an Indian way, the way we are going about, I think it was brought out that we are engaging with actually everybody. And that is amazing to be able to do that in today's world. And without being judged. There was a time we were very poorly judged for this, that, okay, India is a fence sitter. It never, in foreign policy decisions, we never took a firm stance. And why not today? Today it's proving to be the point of fact that nations today are looking at themselves. And this has happened, you know, the post-globalization, post-COVID world, and this rise of nationalism, and everyone's become like, you know, it was discussed, and it came out in several of the discussions that actually we are in a fourth moment. You know, all the drawbridges have been drawn up in a lot of countries. So where does it put us in a country as in India? And I'll just quickly briefly mention about Sindhu. It was a moment where I think suddenly the world came to realize that we have done something incredible, which India was not expected to ever in the past, in a manner which actually shocked the world. And that is what has created a strategic opportunity. It also created a lot of other issues, which we'll discuss along the way. But on the issue of Sindoor, I'll just briefly mention, since General Dua had talked about it, on the use of air power. And I was mentioning it today in my talk, and for the people who didn't attend it, it's not a castigation, it's just a just to say that for the people who missed it, I just want to put it across that we last used air power offensively in the manner that we did in Sindoor in 1971, full-fledged. That was more than 50 years ago. Last was Kargil, 25 years ago. After that, there was a long break. So it came as a sort of a surprise to people that this is what air power could achieve. Yes, but also this must not be taken as a lesson for what conflicts and warfare is going to be like in the future. This is for a very short duration. It had its own challenges and dynamics. This is not war. War is much more debilitating. It's more brutal. It's the worst of everything. And the challenge here is that today, whether you want to choose to keep it confined to a conflict or a war doesn't necessarily depend on you. A lot depends on the adversary. This time it worked for us because we hit the adversary hard enough for them to come looking for a ceasefire. It may not happen so. Moment you get into what is called the mission creep, the war continues for longer than you expected, shifting national goalposts. So I think there we also have one brilliant thing which happened this time is that the political leadership was absolutely clear on the objectives, how much ever people may say otherwise. And that's why we chose to end it at moment they call for a ceasefire. So that same, as you mentioned, 88 hours, some 9 target, and a whole lot of stuff. So that is what I think India's new position in the making in the world, that yes, we are also capable of this.
Very well brought out, Diptendu. Thank you. Yeah, and I'll just take a cue from your last sentence. I think that is also mark of great leadership when we talk about strategic autonomy. Even if you take these two words separately, it was very strategic that we have conflict termination on our terms. Like you said, mission creeping. So we don't know. Suppose we hadn't stopped. We said, a lot of people say in TV debates when I've gone there, no, we should have taken POK. Why didn't we hit them harder and all that? Then when will you stop? Then we don't know when to stop. Then it will not be in your control. The escalation matrix was in our control. It was played very well. So I'm sure you all agree with that. So there are no questions on this. I will throw open the first thought. Now that we are talking about this, the challenges that he mentioned are great. One of the challenge is also the fact that we have to prepare, like I said, for tomorrow's conflicts may not be same. So we have to prepare for a multi-dimensional warfare, which requires a whole of a nation approach. On one hand, within the military, we require, integration of different instruments, cyber, space, AI, Army, Navy, Air Force together, and information warfare, the cognitive warfare. There are many aspects to it. But on the other hand, beyond this military thing, it also has to be the diplomatic instrument. It has to be the political instrument, the leadership. We've already spoken about the strong leadership. And it also has to be the economic factor is the common denominator. People listen to India, and India is invited to G7 only because of our rise in our economic stature, as we've discussed. All right. Having said all this and seen what we've spoken about, my first poser to everyone is, recently, this famous picture after Trump slapped his tariff, like Trump's tariffs were actually in reaction the day Mr. Modi in Parliament announced, no, he didn't mediate. He did not do anything. So that was one. But in response to the tariffs, Mr. Modi's participation in SCO meeting in China was confirmed. And that famous picture of President Xi Jinping, Putin, and Prime Minister Modi, it set a lot of discussions going in world over in this thing. So do we feel that is this, groupings like SCO, BRICS, GGI, that Global Governance Initiative, do you feel that these kind of groupings and this visual of these three leaders, is it the start of a new world order? All right, I'll take one response before he answers. I'll take one response from the audience. Do you think it's the starting of a new world order? Anyone? Yes? Right? I am. Elaborate. Anyone who wants to elaborate? Okay. No, I said, fine, fair enough. But I'm giving you a chance. So I want the question answer not to be in the end. Yes, I'll let you go first.
This puts me in a very interesting spot. I mean, I always thought I was an air pass specialist, and I'm here dabbling around areas which are absolutely not in my comfort zone. But yes, I think I can talk more as a concerned Indian than any great specialist in all this. But, in the lighter vein of strategical power play, did you ever realize that carpooling would have such strategic outcomes? Modi and Putin sharing the car. Yeah,
That's a good one.
yeah. So, but it's a very interesting thing. We were looking at it when you look at it from most certainly we are at a point where I think we are all seeing the transition of a change of a world order, whichever way. And there are two forces, obviously. The two of the older power holders went off with the Cold War. It was the US, unipolar moment for the US, and then China's rise. And in this dynamics, there's a resurgence of Russia and a lot of middle powers, including India, which is now between middle and, everyone's moving upwards. So it's very difficult at this point to say who's where exactly. But there is most certainly no doubt, if you look at attempts at de-dollarization, look at exactly what's happening in the Middle East today. I think US has lost the Middle East at this point in time of having let Israel attack Doha. And that's something which is going to be very defining, because now already you'll have the Middle East feeding into China's arms market in a big way. So that's going to make economic changes in the world. They're going to bring in about a whole lot of dynamic changes. Where are we at this point? We are in a very, it's not a very good spot, but from, like, as you mentioned, I think somewhere we spoke about it, there's also a strategic opportunity here. I think it'll need a lot of very deft policies and deft negotiations to, groupings are important, but also important are bilaterals. I mean, there is one thing which is undeniable, that groupings will get you only so far, because somewhere down the line, the groupings are an outcome of common denominators. There are also pulls away from it. So when it comes to relationships, I think India has improved its international stature immensely. And today people look at India with a lot of credibility, respect, and a newfound outlook. So point I'm trying to make is, in this whole, now it's almost seeming at a point that, yes, it was again getting towards bipolar world, US and China, but I think that is going to change. There is going to be a enormous challenge for us, because as it was very aptly brought out, that what we used to look at, I'm bringing in now national security into this, that what we used to look at security at once upon a time when we joined the services, the military's job was to keep the enemy at the border. Today, there are no borders. The enemy is already inside. Every airport you go to, you're checked. You go to a bus stop, you're frisked. You can't enter a mall without getting checked. Your bag's getting checked. You can't enter this hotel without doing that. So the point I'm trying to make...
Surprisingly, this hotel didn't check us.
Yeah, so I think that's got a lot to do with the larger objective of this event. No, so the point I'm trying to make here is that this has put us in a very interesting spot, because we have to, as a nation, keep for us to be a strong economy and a power of consequence, you will have to have a strong deterrence in our neighborhood. We have two neighbors, longest borders. Our security dynamics are like no other country in the world.
And all three are nuclear
powers.
This is unprecedented in the world. All three are nuclear powers. Sorry for taking the sentence. So all three are nuclear powers, and all three have unresolved borders. I mean, there is a LOC, which is an unresolved border. There is a LAC, which is an unresolved border. That means there are flashpoints. So in these flashpoints, we have always seen scuffles. For decades on LOC, LAC started a little more recently, but now we are sort of facing off on LAC also.
And to add to that, look at the present situation. We live in an exciting neighborhood. Look what's happening all around. You know, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Myanmar. I mean, I'm sure that also in some ways increasing global warming on the lighter vein. But the point I'm trying to make is we have to be secure. If you want to be a nation of consequence, you have to secure your growth. You have to secure your future. You have to secure your position in the world. Otherwise, you will get become, you know, like that famous, forget the author, you know, Jerome K. Jerome, no, flotsam and jetsam. So you will be just on the par in the world. To be different, we have to change. That's what I was saying, that the military outside on the borders is no longer your national security. National security, everybody, each one of you is involved in national security. You're all stakeholders in national security. And the military alone, today national security is not just military power alone, like he was mentioning. All aspects come in. So a comprehensive national power, a holistic approach of everyone being a stakeholder of the nation's growth and progress and security, you have to work on those ideals and those principles, and that is what only thing which can probably get us to where we want to.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a very helpful. Thank you very much. Okay. Now a very different question. So in this issue with the US at the present moment, the way before that, I just want to make a crisp remark on this point on New World Order. I think New World, it's too hasty to say that it's a New World Order. But to my mind, the confidence the country has got with Operation Sindoor in the military and diplomatic domain, because it is combination of military, diplomacy, political leadership and economy in Operation Sindoor. So the army, the military becomes the visible face of it. That's all. So I think the confidence that the country got in Operation Sindoor, the short conflict, and now how we will face Trump's tariffs, perhaps are going to be two inflection points, which history will remember later in case we move towards a different world order. We have our issues with China. It's not so easy that India, China, Russia will only get together. Maybe from now onwards, countries don't get together at all. They only do a case by case merit. It will be on issue based thing, because on certain issues we are aligned with China and things like that. So I'm going to leave this there. A different question now. In all this, US and India, we may have this issue, ongoing issue, but we have very long-standing defense deals. Since we both are from the defense, I'm going to concentrate more on that. To give you a peep into one or two major issues, we are going to get this F404 and later F414 engines from them, which are very much required for our Tejas, our indigenous aircraft, which Diptendu spoke about at length in the morning, in the afternoon. And then there are a couple of other things which are in pipeline from the US as far as defense is concerned. So will this affect our defense deal, or will defense be a small island of continuity between the two countries? Once again, I'm going to ask you first if there is anyone who has an opinion. Yes, please. I'm so happy.
I mean, there's no point cutting that last thread. Keep it going as long as it's serving us.
Is the mic on? Yeah.
I said there's no point cutting that last thread, say buying military equipment. Keep it going as long as it serves our purpose.
Right.
Doesn't mean that this is going to sour our relationship with Russia, no. It doesn't mean it's going to sour our relationship with any other country, no. Because, as you said, Modi is very good at it.
Yeah, yes.
He can talk to Ukraine as well as Putin and Iran.
Iran
Israel
and
as well
Israel.
as
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's a very well-made point. We should keep our national interest at heart and not sulk like sorry for using the name again and again, would not sulk like President Trump because he did not, we did not sort of recommend his name for a Nobel Prize. So what if they are doing this? Why should we stop our defense deals? Because remember, like I made a point yesterday to another speaker, is that we, if it serves our interest, we should make the best of it. And the administrations are transitory. After all, Trump administration will finish in 3 more years. And so we'll see where it goes. What are your views on this?
So, America is a very interesting, our history in defense goes back a long time actually. And I mean, from a purely Air Force perspective, way back in the 60s and early 50s, in fact, after the 1962 defeat, very frankly, we actually reached out to the US. I mean, Nehru reached out to the US seeking their assistance. That is besides the point. He didn't even ask the Indian Air Force their opinion or whether they were, guys, can you do something? No, he wanted the US help for it. And the US and the Brits came in. But that's also an interesting point in time where, if you remember, there was a treaty called the SEATO, Southeast Asian Treaty Organization. And most of the nations, except very interestingly, Afghanistan and India were not part of it. So Pakistan was an active SEATO member from the longest time.
And CENTO also.
And CENTO also as well. So they have this long connects. And then the famous, geopolitical shift of dynamics where suddenly post, I think 62, because that is the time there was this whole thing of, as a stopping, keeping communism at bay. And that's how they came to India's assistance at that point in time. But the fact of it, they had their own challenges at this point in time. The Cuban crisis and all that was happening around the same time. And at the end of the day, Pakistan ended up with, from the mid-50s to mid-60s, enormous US aid. They modernized their entire air force. They got tanks, ships, enormous infrastructure, training. So the point I'm trying to make is Pakistan has always been and will always remain a US strategic asset. Especially so now when their influence is already waning. In fact, Pakistan is the only hold it has in South Asia. I mean, Asian region, actually, the gateway to Asia kind of thing. And with what's happening in the Middle East, this is not going to go away anywhere. Pakistan, I give them full marks. Masterly strategy, leveraging everybody. That good old, I think, in the lighter vein, good Punjabi flavored jugaad, taking making monkey out of everybody. And they're leveraging their outlook. I mean, it's fantastic how they do it. So that is another point which I think I wanted to bring out when we're talking about Sindoor. I think that is something we need to do a lot more, is a strategic communication. And strategic communication is what you're telling the leaders, telling your own country first and foremost, and the other countries as well. What are you as a nation? What are you going to be as a nation? So I think depending on the US, we unfortunately can't even back out because a lot of our aircraft today are US. C-17s in the Air Force, the C-130s. Look at the huge fleet of Navy's P-8Is.
Yes.
They're all Americans.
Apache,
Naval helicopters.
Apaches.
So only good thing is we didn't go for the US fighter. They were trying to push the F-35 down on us because frankly, it was a bit of a lemon. It is still not fully, it has not yet achieved its original goal and potential. It had a lot of problems. And so he was happy to pass it out to us.
Yeah, and also I think now India will be a little wary of putting all eggs in one basket.
And I totally concur to what Glory says. I think we are doing it perfectly. We must keep every option alive. True. Keep every option open as long as it serves India's interests.
Right. So on that note, the advantage of writing points on the phone, and I was scrolling what was my next question. So the advantage is that there is a little clock on the top. So, so Glory didn't have to do a job. So now I realize the time is less. So I'm not going to go into further questions. I know that 10 minutes I saw just now. Thank you. So, yeah, okay. This is for you guys. Okay. So now I'm going to put all the questions aside because we must have interaction. I gave you chances in between. We had very little response. So let's, with you, I think, throw open the floor to questions if there are any. Yes, sir. पीछे माइक दे देना. Sorry, Alo, I myself said पीछे पहले. Yeah. Okay. I thought you raised your hand. Yeah.
Operation Sindoor happened because India and Pakistan are two different countries right now. But speaking in Pondicherry and in front of this great man who says that the division must go, whatever the way.
Yes.
How do you see that? When is it going to go?
Can I take this? Because he talks about Shri Aurobindo's, those 5 dreams. And it's a very good thought. And we know that Shri Aurobindo was really ahead of his times. For example, I have always, you are all more well-read and steeped in Shri Aurobindo and Mother's culture, but I have always heard and read that Savitri is a book which has been written 300 years ahead of its time. How many ever times you read it? I am on my second trial. I just go for Savitri reading. Somebody explains to me and I don't. You still keep discovering newer and newer meanings. So Shri Aurobindo is actually very deep, very profound. I am sure he has his vision will bear fruit someday. Because today, nation states, as we know, are dissolving. One of the things is talking about integration. So, for example, today, flow of communication, space and cyber recognizes no national boundaries, does it? There are no national boundaries in that. Trade finds its own way. US and China are having problems, US and Russia, but even US is actually importing things from Russia despite sanctions on them, right? Fertilizers, and there was 3 things that came out in the newspaper. Yeah, all that. So, some hexafluoride and all. So, they're doing this. So, what I'm trying to say, today, the concept of borders is changing. So, we still have to wait a while. I think the churn is happening. US took more than 2 centuries to evolve. There was so much lawlessness and corruption. And if you see the older movies of the gangs of New York and things like that, there was different world. So it took time to evolve. India, Pakistan together, or South Asia, is only 78 years old. So the churn is happening, and I think we'll have to wait for that.
My short view on that is a little different. For a nation which puts all its weight behind the thought that it is survival existence and its raison d'etre, the main is India. So if you have an existential threat, you made a neighbor an existential threat. How much ever one side may try, and try I think we have enough number of times, I think they've gone too far down the road.
So I'll just take 2 more things. The point I will make, and I'll not like to drag this beyond the point. I have said this often. Somebody asked me, there is no solution. So in panel discussions, live on TV, I have said this. So one way probably is, I don't know whether this happened or not, how, but one way is somehow if Pakistan army was to be made unpopular in Pakistan, imagine a situation. And it could happen because don't forget it actually happened for 2 days where they ransacked the Corps Commander's house, where today the most popular leader of Pakistan is in jail. Whether he's good for us or not is not the point, but he's in jail, the most popular leader. Okay, so there is a churn there in Pakistan. I was having a great talk with Anita on this Baloch thing just now from Oroville. So, my issue is, there is a churn there also. I am not reading too much into it. There is time, and I respect what Shri Aurobindo's dream is, and everything else is coming true. So we leave it at that because we'll have to wait and watch how it happens. Yeah. Yeah. So there are two different views. Yes, please. Yeah, I see that. Fine.
Yeah, good evening, both of sir. Sir, my question is sir, from HAL, sir. Like recently, Air Chief Marshal Amarpreet Singh, sir, told that they have less confidence on HAL, and there's a late deliveries of the aircraft like Tejas, sir, to the Air Force units, sir. So, what is lacking here, sir? What is the lacuna? Which decreasing the efficiency of HAL, like 50 to 60% of only indigenous aircraft are there in Air Force. So how we can increase it, sir?
Right. So this is my domain. You don't know anything about it, right? All right. Yes.
The HL, unfortunately, I mean, when it started, it was on a different outlook. That at that point in time, doing something for the nation was the larger picture. It started off that, and at that point in time, like a lot of things in the past, there was a lot of strategic vision. Incidentally, I mean, the LCA itself was conceived in the 60s, late 60s. By the time we had just got the MiG-21s at that point in time. The LCA was conceived then as a replacement, an indigenous replacement. So the vision was there. But the challenge has been that we've always been, in terms of, we were not in a good wicket at that point in time economically. So we didn't have enough funds, money, not enough technology. So you had to depend on external technology. And the point was at that time in 70s when we did the nuclear explosion and suddenly we were again on, so we are not new to tariffs and sanctions. So we have faced that in the past. But again, so technology was not made available to us at this point in time. And it takes an enormous amount of funding and development and research to build up niche technologies. You have to have a strong science base, develop it into, invest in the academia so much more. So that I think wasn't done in the past. And somewhere down the line, I think the very bureaucratic, what should I say, a governmental job approach crept into the whole organization. It was just another job. Air Force would get aircraft in the last quarter. The entire year's orders, which were supposed to be spaced up, were all left towards the end in the last quarter, and they would produce the aircraft because now they would get bonuses for working overtime to produce the aircraft which was supposed to have come through the year, which comes in the last 3 months of the annual financial year. So there are a whole lot of stuff like that. And some of it is not very exciting because I myself am ejected from an aeroplane which had just come out, flown 4 sorties after coming out of HAL's major servicing. And the engine just disintegrated. So I have very fond memories of HAL, but the Indian Air Force, I think, has taken an enormous leap of faith in giving them the Tejas order and adding on to the Tejas order. So there is a hope, there is a change. Today the government is seized of this sloth in HAL and I think defense public sector undertaking, and there is going to be more oversight. But the point here I'm just trying to make is that unless and until an organization and institution of that caliber, which seeks to be in the, what should I say, in the top echelon in the world, unless you take pride on the fact that you want to produce quality products and be the best in the world for India. I mean, Air Force is his biggest customer. So if you can't keep your biggest customer happy, you need to get on the mission mode. And I think till that happens, it'll take some time, but I think we'll get there.
Right.
Hopefully.
Thank you. Well, maybe time for one last question.
Sir, Jain, sir.
Yes, Lal. Oh,
I'll
right.
go ahead.
One of you.
Sir Jain, sir.
Okay.
So the question is for you, sir. Having someone like who has served all his life on ground, you must be very well aware that decisions which are made at the top definitely affects the troops on the ground. What's your view? How do you see the strategic autonomy with the need of having strong alliances, yet not compromising on having independent decisions, which we faced in just recent Operation Sindoor?
Right. That's a good question. You know, why are alliances made? Alliances are made because you can't have everything everywhere. So you need to have partnerships with like-minded or similarly aligned countries. So that's one aspect. But as far as Operation Sindoor is concerned, our strategic autonomy is concerned, You know, in over the last 11 years, and I will be correctly politically incorrect to say I am talking about Modi government, that during this time, the kind of decisions that we've got, and therefore yesterday I spoke about how Mr. Parikar gave the decision to do this, what is now called a surgical strike, in my office itself. So, you know, the kind of decisions that we get have been very military-like. So we as military men are very happy with the decisiveness of the leadership. And after having given a decision, there is no interference. That's the question. So there is just no interference. Like that was a very small operation. This is the targets, the timings was left to us. So similarly in Operation Sindoor, and we saw several visuals. Prime Minister Modi himself chaired many meetings. We saw that coming on TV. Of course, it was also done for visual impact and all that. But what happened thereafter, that there was total free hand given to the chiefs. And they coordinated. If there's some issues, they must have sort of sorted out in front of the Prime Minister. All this was possible. Perhaps we saw these visuals only because it was 4 days. Imagine if it continued for 48, God forbid, 40 days, we wouldn't have had Prime Minister sitting in every day, right? So I think this is a very textbook situation that we have today. A bold leadership gives directions in time, gives you support. Go ahead, we support you, but doesn't interfere in your tactics and operations. Yeah. Since the time card is not being shown, one more question. Lalit asked, okay, sorry. Lalit wanted to ask both. Yeah, we'll take both. Yeah, so whoever gets the mic first, please speak. I thought Lalit will say ladies first, but okay. No, Alok should have the last word also because as an organizer.
Alo is more than the lady, she's the organizer.
Yes, that's what I said.
So I know that we made a great name in the world after Operation Sindoor, but Pakistan gained money. Pakistan got free lunches in the White House. Pakistan also got less tariffs. In that perspective, what did we gain? We have seen very grim image about our Indian army. We don't have enough scientists who have taken it forward yet.
Yes.
Dr. Anand Ranganathan is here. We just have 75,000 artists trying to create, whereas a small country has more scientists. So what are the other things that we gained from this Sindoor operation, other than
so
name?
I will yield to Diptendu first because, like he said, hats off to Pakistan. I mean, that's what you are saying. I mean, they gained. So over to you first.
I love this. I get the more difficult question, which frankly, when I don't have much answers to.
No, I'll take it on very easily.
But no, but I'll take that question in a very interesting manner, in the sense that Pakistan got instant American attention and aid was simply for two reasons. One was, which I mentioned earlier, that they are a strategic asset to the US. And the US wants to quickly regain that strategic asset as quickly as it can. And Sindoor was an ideal opportunity because a lot of the assets and infrastructure which were hit there were of US origin as well. So that would have got Papa Trump a little unhappy. And then, you don't give him credit for, bonus points for the Nobel. He's more unhappy. But yes, I think what we are seeing of this hobnobbing of the Pakistani leadership with the US is not surprising. It was coming. We, unfortunately, in today's media information era, we try to make a big thing out of everything. But this is, to me, just a very natural thing which would have happened. US would want to get back a lot more influence, given the fact of the proximity which was evident between China and Pakistan in this time. So that is one aspect. What is India going to gain? My concern is today that what is happening right now with this SDMA, the Strategic Defense, Mutual Defense Agreement,
Saudi.
with the Saudi.
Yeah.
Pakistan is the only country in the OIC out of 57 nations, which is a nuclear power. And it uses and leverages that to its credit. So now Pakistan is trying to, I think, to my perception, up its game into a much larger regional player than get tied down with just India-Pakistan centric. It serves its purpose If the US shows more interest in Pakistan, it serves its purpose. If it gains more leverage against the US in the Middle East, and in a way today it's almost like you're a rentier nuclear power which will give you protection. So effectively, as someone mentioned it, I think it's a bit of a nightmare scenario. That means your nuclear weapons are up for grabs. Whichever nation can pay a higher price, willing to pay, and Pakistan always needs money, it'll be to its advantage. But I think what is the most important takeaway from our point is, I think, at every growth period, if you keep having, happiness all the way, you run into trouble where you can't deal with things. We've hit a speed breaker, which I think, like you mentioned very aptly, that this is also an opportunity to look at the future in a different way. And I think we've come to terms with, from a larger security national interest perspective, of what our red lines are and how do we negotiate it and how are we going to play it. So I think India is doing a masterly job in just playing, not getting involved too much in what's happening in the region around, keeping a wait and watch profile and play the long game. I think that's important.
Right. Well said. Pakistan, is it really becoming a nuclear mercenary? So we need to wait and watch, but it's a concern that we really have to be careful about, because if Pakistan is actually putting its nuclear weapons for hire, as you said, and being the only Islamic country, nuclear country, we need to wait and watch. But I think that we have, like today, our diplomacy we have a fair amount of diplomatic heft, because our relations with Saudi are also very good. So it is not as if when we have, God forbid, a small conflict somewhere and Saudi Arabia is going to attack us. It's not really going to happen like that. And even Saudi Arabia using the nuclear card, it's maybe using for talking point to Israel, and they have their own dynamics which may not even concern India. So we must watch it with concern, but I think we should not get overly apprehensive. So we leave it at that, because it's something that we have to wait and watch. Yes, Alok.
So my last question. Okay.
Yes.
So first, one point, you can opine and the audience can. What is more strength, being invited in the White House or refusing an invitation? So I
Great.
don't exactly.
Excellent.
So I think this narrative, we've lost the narrative. I don't know how we lost the narrative. In 90 hours we finished it. They came begging to us. So I feel as citizens, let's just feel proud of this operation. We gained. We are forgetting about how our defense systems did so well.
Yes.
So I don't want to forget all that. I will not forget all that, and I will not cede any of that to Pakistan. So that is my point of view. So I'm opining. Now my question. With the Operation Sindoor, can you explain to us the exact impact of the CDS's position in order to make this a success?
CDS's position.
The rank of the CDS and the coordination.
Right. You see, Chief of Defense Staff is a new addition to our country. It's been only 5 years, or five and a half, 6 years. Now, Chief of Defense Staff in other countries which have a post like this, or it's called CDS somewhere and a CGS somewhere, but the post like this actually has control over Army, Navy and Air Force of that respect of his country, the military, and then he coordinates between them. In India, since it's a new concept, today the CDS has been given a mandate to integrate the forces, to find more and more better processes where we are not duplicating efforts and benefiting from each other in the three forces domain in multi-domain warfare. So, but that mandate has to take several years to take shape. For instance, I remember that since I headed the Integrated Defense Staff when there was no CDS, I'm aware of certain details that in Australia, they call it CDF, Chief of Defense Forces. The CDF, you know how many years he took to assume his mandate? 14 years. That means several CDFs have changed. So it is going to take, that is work in progress. Something has actually started. Something has started. There's work in progress. Now it's a huge discussion by itself, so I'll not get into details. But now suddenly there is a conflict. we saw it in a smaller measure in Galwan. That time the CDS itself was a very new entity. Late General Bipin Rawat was the one. And so there were coordination issues between Air Force and Army only. And we did it fairly well, and he explained very nicely today about the asymmetry that we have in that region in air power terms. But during this conflict, as we saw the visuals also on TV, there was a requirement of a lot of coordination, hands-on coordination between between our resources, between our efforts, and between our capabilities. And I'm going to say something which I have gone on several TV channels during those few days of between Pahalgam and Operation Sindoor. And actually, as some of you will recall, that the day the ceasefire was announced, I was here in Pondicherry on 10th, and on 11th I gave a talk. 11th morning I gave a talk, and so many of you were here. I can see you nodding. So, and I've spoken on several channels. And this is what I said. I myself, I'm going to end with this. I myself was a great skeptic of two things. One, that we will be able to integrate our air defense resources between Army, Navy, and Air Force in absence of integrated structures. I thought it will not happen. And the second thing, I never thought, as we were discussing over breakfast today, I never thought that, our legacies, you have modern system, Rafales and S-400s and all that. And then we have legacy systems like L-70, 70 years old weapon. How can they integrate? I am happy to be proven wrong on both counts, because we did a great job. Air Force did a great job. Army guys did a great job. So it was so heartening to see that. I've said this in BBC, I've said this in Al Arabiya, I've said this in Al Jazeera. So I'm very happy to be proven wrong. So the point is, where CDS comes in is, we still don't have those integrated structures or theater commands and things like that, but the coordination was very good this time. And that's where CDS plays a role. He plays a very balancing role, though he does not have operational authority over the others. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, just a few quick points. First, on Alo's invitation to the White House, whatever you do, just give him the Nobel Prize. At least he'll keep quiet. And CDS thing, it's a fantastic beginning, actually, because I was mentioning this about unity of force today. Military is just another instrument of national power. And it's a hard power instrument, so it has a very serious, heavy-duty job. But the fact of it is, application of force, where it used to be in the past and where it's going to be in the future, is something which is going to evolve and change, and we are seeing this change. And I think CDS is a very important element today to marshal all the instruments of power of Indian military into a future relevant way of war fighting and applying force as a military instrument of statecraft. And what is going to be very important is, I think General Dua alluded to it in the beginning when he was mentioning this, is warfare is becoming multi-domain. And so it's, firstly, we were all traditional services, Army, Air Force, Navy, and historically so. And they were the older services. So air power itself took a long time to be accepted as a power itself. So I think we have gone past all that. We have reached a level today in, and not only in the world over, especially in India now, that there is a clear need that there are no boundaries actually between the services and the national objectives. There are a lot of common overlaps. And there will be certain core competences, sure, because Army has a certain role itself, Navy has a certain role, Air Force has a certain role. But there are enormous areas of coincidence where you need to come together for a joint application of force of this military instrument. And then the CDS is a huge, facilitator in for us to get to that change, to become a nation which is proficient in future relevant security scenarios. And I think that's an important role in the CDS space.
Yeah, thank you. Adding just one sentence to that will clarify to everyone very easily. I have been saying that when there was no CDS, when I have been saying this often. I just remember the line. You know, Army, Navy and Air Force, if they have some differences, whom do they go to then? Whom do they go to? Then you require someone to talk to. Now, who is the other one? Either they go to the defense minister, or they go to the NSA, or go to the prime minister. I mean, I see only these three authorities. That means then you are going to leave the military decision to a non-military man. All three of them are non-military, right? Here in the office institution of the CDS, we now have a military man to go to, a leader, military leader to go to, who is mandated to do only this job, right? So I think that's the way we should see CDS. I think that's a very happy note to end on. And may the CDS institution grow from strength to strength, because that is something which is in our national interest, and national interests are supreme. Thank you very much.